Cool. I will just start. Thanks everyone for joining today. My name is Tasso. I work as an engineering manager at Delivery Hero. Basically, I work with the rider application that is used in like a 50 plus plus countries. It's quite challenging and exciting project to be part of. And basically, I actually did this presentation before that, but I also presented this at the company as well. So yeah, before further ado, let's start. Today I will be talking about effective code reviews, basically how to make it generally more effective. Right. So, oh, sorry, I am struggling with no. Yeah. So, yeah, so we will be looking into code reviews from both authors and the reviewers' perspective from because it's actually like a collaboration and a feedback exchange from like between multiple parties. Like so, we will look into how we can do this process more effective from both parties. So first of all, what is a code review? Right, I don't want to be like copy paste from Wikipedia, so this is not like a tutorial type of presentation at the end. So it's but at the end it is like a quality assurance practice, but it is more than that, more like a collaboration tool. Actually, like with code reviews, you would maybe end up with better code quality, maybe finding issues at the end, but it's also about like learning and knowledge transfer. Sometimes also it increases ownership, but through this collaboration also it might help you find better solutions overall for your team. Of course, like a disclaimer on that, of course, if you code reviews is actually like a last part in the process where you would do this, right? So we will touch on that also, but just wanted to start with disclaimer that of course if you want to like find a better solution, learning knowledge transfer, etc., perhaps like a peer programming and stuff like that, even more collaboration between team members could even be better. So yeah, we will see that also later. Yes. So I will start with this meme. It's a funny one I found online when I was researching for my talk. I think this is kind of like a gist of what is my talk about. Yeah, I will talk about this Boy Scouting rule as well. I don't know if how many of you, like in a real talk in person, I would ask like how many were you in this situation, but I was definitely in this situation at least a couple times in my career, early days. And yeah, right. So I don't think like it's a good situation to be in, because like on the contrary, it could code reviews could be a reason to lift the spirit and the team culture, right? So like we would like to definitely avoid such situations. Second of all, also like another one, at the end we want to merge things, right? We are here to develop and ship software. At the end, if you think about it, if you don't have processes like code reviews, it's at least in the short term, not sure about the long term, but you would be faster developing software on paper, right? So I believe there is a balance between this. While doing code review, we could still keep things fast enough, but also you might have been in the situation where like your pull request was blocked for long time because of the code review process, right? We also would like to avoid such situations, obviously. So let's see it as a code reviewer perspective, right? So from this point on, like imagine a story, like imagine like your day-to-day life at work or in a project. So from this point on, like I would like you to imagine yourself in a code review. You finished your work, you opened uh, like you opened GitHub and you want to review some code, right? Or your colleague asked you to review their pull requests. So you review, you go over, you put some comments, and then okay, your work is done. Even you like found an issue, you commented on it. Okay, it's an accomplishment. Your job is done. Found a bug, and then that's all it, right? Or otherwise, you put like the magical four letters at GTM, and that's it. It's actually not that simple. So we will go over that. But I would like you to imagine that you are maybe doing a code review now. So first of all, before I would like to set some principles. So review when you have the chance. So basically, whenever you have time in between, because this is being helpful to your colleagues and they will do the same. I think helping each other. So whenever you have the chance, do that. But also, like this is one of my favorite parts of the presentation. Like approve it as long as it is better than before. So like don't be perfectionist and block pull requests, especially if they are better than before. Although maybe they have still opportunities to improve. So for those, I mean, in some teams, I have seen also that people are skeptical about follow-up tasks because they are never done. But really, there is a good balance and a way to do this properly. With I think good functioning teams, I have seen that these kind of tech debt and follow-up tickets are handled in a very nice way. If you can achieve that and have that trust between team members, um, having some of the parts as a follow-up tasks or tickets can work quite good. One last point is make a full review. Actually, it's a big commitment, you will see, but at the same time, like I said, review when you have the chance, but maybe like this 5-minute chance between like so short time, maybe it's not a good idea because you really want to do a full review. Sometimes it's unfortunate that you put like couple of comments and then the author just follows up, fixes them, and then you review the rest of it and have another comment and then they fix it again. So this back and forth and doing it over and over again could be very annoying. So like making a full review in one go is also important. So now we are doing reviews, right? I would like to look at potential types of comments. I basically categorize them into 3 buckets: questions, suggestions, and appreciation. So we will have a look at them one by one. So questions, first of all, you are asking a question, right? Why? Because you probably didn't understand anything, you are curious about something. Be direct, ask the questions, like don't be vague. It's very important in written communication, and it's especially more important when the nature of pull request reviews is like even more asynchronous, right? In this case, also don't hold your questions. Sometimes people already have a couple of questions and like they are like, okay, here goes my first question, and depending on other people answer, I already have maybe prepared my next questions, right, in my mind. This is not a good way because of nature of like, again, asynchronous communication. Like just put all of it in one go, like whatever you have in your mind, even if like a couple of steps of questions, have them there. Some people also do this. It's really bad, especially some seniors do this actually, like to test the other person. Like they don't really ask the question openly, but they do it in a way that it tests the other person's knowledge, whether if they actually know this or not. I really, really don't like this way. It's not only not effective, but also this pull request is not a good way to test people like that. There are many more tools that you can use to train and educate people, especially senior, to be mentor. Like people, pull request is not a place to test people also. Um, Suggestions. So suggestions is actually maybe the majority of the pull requests. Of course, like we have the intention to improve, and then like while reviewing, we might have a lot of suggestions. So this is the biggest bucket. Um, yeah, let's have a look at. So first, like definitely state the suggestion. Being direct again um, works, right? But more importantly, like give the reason, right? Sometimes if you just do the suggestion without the reason, it's not obvious, and then it can create a lot of unnecessary back and forth and debate. So starting with the reason already is very important. Don't give comments. Yeah, it's also shouldn't never be personal. So it's more about the code itself. So it's about working together to improve the code. So never give commands. Um, and then one more disclaimer with the questions and suggestions. I am talking about like be direct and detailed as much as possible, right? Especially for giving reasons. You might not be sure, right? Maybe you're not sure. That's also fine. So in that case, what I'd like to do is that I state it. Like I say, hey, I think this might be a better solution. Unfortunately, like it's not super clear in my mind, but like if you would like to talk about it in person, for example, in these situations, maybe I usually suggest people to go to a call and talk about this in person, especially if there are some areas where I'm not sure. So like we could exchange ideas. Yeah. So this is very important to be clear even about that. Yeah. And then more importantly, like also last point, alternatives and examples. So the thing is, like, I'm sure this is like when I was picturing in myself in this situation, I'm like, I have a suggestion. I'm talking about the reasons. I have the code in front of me that I am reading. So this means I am invested in this quite a lot. So I have spent some time on this already. So in my mind, I'm already thinking about some examples and alternatives. So don't hold this as well. It's really good to just dump that information there already. You are already thinking about an alternative. Just state that. It's quite helpful, actually. Um, Being precise is very important. So I will go with some little bits of examples now. So being precise, so like this is a very bad example. The code is bad. So this is a could be even a fact. Maybe it's really bad, but it's not a way to have a comment in a pull request. Yeah, I have seen some versions of this. Also, maybe I'm also guilty of it. Well, let's have a look at another version like this. Maybe talks a bit about the reason. Don't call this method here. Maybe like you really shouldn't call that method here. And that's, yeah, this explains it a bit more, but it's still not enough. Um, this line could cause an exception thrown because of that, you know. So this is more obvious, more clear, precise about the code, and as you can see, it also follows up with the reason. This in comparison is much better. So let's talk about the reason also, why, right? This is very important. So it's probably obvious to you, But the thing with communication is always right. It may not be the obvious to the next person, to the other person. So this is definitely not a good way to do it, even though it is really obvious to you. Instead, you could do something like, because this might be called after the reference is gone. Just an example, but this explains why this could be an issue, right? It's in this case, it's much better. Another category of things are questions, but also nitpicking and stuff. So here, what I would like to mention is to also be precise even for that. Sometimes it's very good practice. Something that I have been doing. So first of all, read your comments also and make sure of the importance, right? So here's just some examples. Yeah, sometimes I might say just a question or use the question mark emoji. Emojis are really powerful, so definitely use more of that. I would say like nitpicking sometimes columns to indicate that this is like really nitpicking. So it's not the most important thing, but if you like my idea, maybe you can change it, and if it is better or more clear, but it is not the most important, right? It's fine as it is also. And for more important things like that, I would maybe put like a warning, even like a blocker, if it is like really, really important emoji. Um, yeah, this is where I would also be more detailed also with the reasoning, etc. So making this very clear, if necessary, um, with the help of emojis is like really good practice. Although it's not the most important thing, I think it helps a lot. Uh, what else? Like, let's have a look at the alternatives, giving alternatives, right? This is mentioned. This is the next one that I mentioned. So the most obvious example for alternatives is naming. Naming is, of course, is difficult. Caching and naming are the two most difficult things, right, in software engineering. So maybe while you are reading the code, that naming was not super clear to you, confusing, or what it could be confusing for other people also. Um, so as I mentioned, at that point, you are probably thinking about alternatives. So one or two, um, you could, yeah, definitely give them. Or it could be also the location of the method, right? Maybe single responsibility principle, etc., or better encapsulation, or yeah, cohesion, um, stuff like that. It could be many reasons you think that it is not the right place. So, like you explained, also the because, like the reason. But again, you are already thinking about it, thinking about what could be a better solution. So, just not state that it's not enough. So you could also suggest to move it to some other place, right? Giving an alternative. Um, again, already something that I mentioned, maybe not possible, then that's also fine. Invite collaboration and work on that together. Okay, so with this one, maybe you have a bunch of comments. So maybe you are thinking about your job is almost done, but not so easy, actually. It's not done yet. End of review is also very important. It's very quick, but it makes a big difference if you invest a bit more time at the end. So perhaps you read all of the code you finished, but what else you could do? There is relatively new, I think, when I prepared the slides, it was also new. Like, I think it is maybe 2 years now, maybe 3 years old feature that you can submit your review in one go. In the past, you would only could put comments and imagine, I think, of course, like a smaller pull requests are the better, but imagine like a big pull request that takes half an hour to review. Um, then the time in between comments could be as big as half an hour. So that could also create like unnecessary back and forth. So this submit review feature that you submit everything in one go is quite good. And with this feature, like before submitting, you can review your own review. So first of all, have a look at how many uh, comments do you have? Like, do you have too many? Before you couldn't also think about that, right? Maybe you are like, you have 20 comments, maybe even more. Oh my God, this is too much. Even 10 is a lot. In such cases, it would be quite a hassle for your colleague to address all of them. So maybe you can have a look at them and remove less important ones. Yeah, maybe it's a good idea, so that it would allow your coworker to focus on the other ones. So I mentioned like also questions, suggestions, etc. Like some of the suggestions are more important, less important. So if you have such a mix, it is very important to summarize also. This is like a very good practice. So what I would do, like, let me give you an example. For example, there is a summary section when you submit the review, right? There I would say like, okay, thank you for your that actually connects to saying at least one nice thing as well. So I would say, um, thank you for your work. Like finally, someone is taking care of this. Yeah, I have a couple of comments, but like in the summary, I would say I have a couple of comments, but this particular one is very important. So please have a look at that, and then it is good to go. This kind of summary uh, works quite well. And of course, it's also very important, kind of side topic, but it's very important to mention is at least one nice thing, you know. In the pull requests, yeah, of course, we are here to improve, right? Learn together and improve. Like it's about how we can do better. So it's tend to be about criticism usually. So in my research, I found this tweet that I really liked. So I copied here. Um, so I think it cannot be more right, definitely. Um, there is always at least one nice thing about that person's work. I will give some examples. For example, it could be well organized, you know, edge cases would be covered maybe. Yeah, maybe the performance is good. Maybe just one part that they did very well, one case that was interesting, maybe highlighting that. Maybe like this is my favorite, maybe it's about deleting the code. So like when we do some cleanup, deleting, so celebrating that is quite good. Or maybe piece of code, it's not easy, you couldn't identify. What about, yeah, maybe it's a task that has been sitting there, a tech debt or a bug that nobody took care of like for a really long time, and somebody finally fixed that and did something better. So thanking for that, thanks for finally taking care of this, or I'm so glad that somebody's taking care of this. Is good. Or it could be also entire file, of course we need to add tests, but why not thanking for it, because like it's helpful of course for you if you have tests in your project. So it's important, and then you should be glad that your team member actually covered the logic well with tests. Right? That could even be possible. Other than that, I already mentioned the emojis are work really well. And these are especially the ones that I found myself using more, like thumbs up or like to the target. Eyes would mean that, hey, I maybe noticed this or something, or celebration like claps, rocket heart. Yeah, monkey covering face I would use maybe for yeah, legacy stuff that we are not so proud of. Right, and dancing or 100%, etc., like more happy ones. And also, I mean, why these are important? Because in the written communication, it is hard to capture the tone, right? It's like that. But with emojis, and I will show some GIFs as well, with animated GIFs, that you could do. And you could even do sarcasm, like it's very tricky actually. Like sarcasm is natural in a healthy team when you trust each other. Sarcasm is also even could be quite good, but in the written communication, it's risky because maybe you would be misunderstood. And with emojis and animated GIFs, this works quite well. And here are the gifts that I took from my own also. Like bottom left is like finally someone is taking care of it. Some like from friends is like surprising, and from the office is celebrations, and cats and dogs is always like whatever it is, it goes really well. And so you can use those regardless. Um, cool. Like I love using GIFs, and it makes a huge difference. Cool. So what else? The next one is criticizing. So I will specifically touch base on a couple of the points on this area. What I would say, like, simply do not criticize, but I will show you why and why it is important. First of all, I would like to start with this from Norm Kart. This is from um, retrospective guidelines for agile teams. So it goes like, uh, in an agile team, whatever happens, at the end, you need to assume that everyone did their best job they could, given what they knew at the time, their skills and abilities, the resources available, and the situation. Yeah, similar, like the same applies for any type of teamwork, I would say, including code and code reviews. So simply don't criticize. Yeah, like why review should never be personal. So we are improving the code. Maybe we are knowledge sharing, but it's all about the code, right? It should never be personal. It's not about that person that did the work itself. Yeah, this does not encourage good work. Why? Like if you do this, your relationship with that person will be broken, and then it's very hard to recover in the long term. You will suffer more from what you would gain from that particular code, right? So this is not encouraging good work for your peer at the end. So like what we would like to do as a goal is to have constructive feedback, helping each other in a positive way, without offending, and yeah, sometimes also by highlighting positive parts. Um, Basically, the goal is at the end what, like, of course, merging the pull requests, right? We want to get ship things done, get things done, basically. Um, so let's have a look at the constructive feedback and some of examples. So I have a couple of examples here too. So let's imagine such a comment. So this cannot be merged. I mean, maybe you have some rules in the team, like really, like writing tests cannot be merged, right? It's simple as that. It's actually maybe true. But it's not a good way to state it like that. And then you follow up with even more like the personal part I mentioned. You always forget to write tests. I have seen this also quite um, um, not often, but I have seen it in my career in the past. It's really nice way of doing it. It's maybe even true, like that person forgets about it, but it's not the point, right? Um, like if that's the problem, it's also that pull request is not a way to solve that person's issue anyways, and this is not a way to solve it. Another way of looking at it, maybe like let's have a look. This new class is great, like you even praise it like a positive thing, but cannot be merged since you didn't write any test. Still a bit personal, but also like I would like to highlight this but part. It's very important. So like when you follow up with but, actually the first part that sounds positive is just not really honest. Um, it is actually not that positive in the end. So that kind of like defeats the purpose of it when you follow up with but like this. Yeah, like a bit better version would be like this new class is great for encapsulating this business logic. So you give a bit also reasoning. So I like it a bit more in the first part. And then what I follow up is that how do you think we can test it, right? This actually invites for collaboration. And when you ask it like that, it lets the other person already thinking about the tests, and they would be encouraged and excited about writing those tests. You could write them together, or they can write it. So this is like a much more constructive way of doing it. So as a result, I hope like this was like, of course, it's just an example, but I hope it made it clear why instead of criticizing, like a constructive feedback would be um, like a better for your projects and teams as well. So this is basically it from like a code reviewer's perspective. As I mentioned, now we are switching gears a bit. So we will be looking at from the author side, because there's some stuff that needs to be done by the author as well. So first of all, like review your own code before submitting, right? So this is very important. Like with this one, you could, of course, like you are gonna be like much faster actually because it's your code already. But with that, just a bit of time you spent here, like you will maybe find typos, accidentally committed code, formatting issues, to-dos, duplication. So like you will see that those and resolve them already, right? This makes a huge difference and save the other person's time. And this typos, etc., and the formatting issues, if you can automate it, is even better. So like they are not really a good time spent value in the code review process, because it's too late and it's annoying back and forth. So actually like resolving this earlier also would um, help you gain other team members' trust, even because it means that you care about it, um, and you produce um, um, like without, especially like typos and formatting are in this category. Yeah. Um, And yeah, with a disclaimer, like Uncle Bob has been criticized in Twitter recently a lot. I don't know like your opinion on that. Everybody has like a lot of people actually blocked him. But in the end, some of his work is quite valuable. I like this the programmer's old blog post he has from like years and years ago. It's a very short one. I copied some of the items from there that I found really applicable for code reviews. Um, So basically, he has like bullet points of things that are valuable for a programmer, and they are quite good actually. The first thing, like I will continuously ensure that others can cover for me and that I can cover for them. So covering for each other in terms of collaboration also is very good trait of a like a well-functioning team. So imagine like you get sick or something, then like if that work just hangs there and nobody really touches it, then that's a problem. But why could that happen? Because of the missing information usually. So in terms of pull request as an author, then you have this like requirement to give more context at the end. You have been working on this project and pull request for quite some time, like maybe it's a couple of days of work, maybe it's 1 week of work. Shorter is better, obviously, but you have been living with it, right? You have the most context. So like make your colleagues like they would appreciate, make it easier for them by just giving some context. This is like the pull request description. It is actually not too much of your time, and then it's like really valuable for everyone. Good description, explain what and why, like what are you doing in this pull request, and if necessary, like why are you doing certain things. Um, Steps to test, yeah, actually like a lot of time overlooked, but it's very important, especially if it is like a complex feature that maybe you didn't have time yet to write automated UI tests, etc. So like you can help other team members to document how they can help you test it, because like more set of eyes is always good. Screenshots, again, like you have been working on it, it's so easy for you to take some screenshots or recordings. um, do that. It's much more easier for you when you have it open already. Labels, proper labels, add them to. Yeah, and then one more thing is actually like this description that I have been mentioning, and not just for you, it's read by everybody. It serves like a documentation, right? But also it will be valuable for yourself as well in couple of weeks or months, because you would maybe go back and refer to it and it will be useful for you. No information hidden, and then this includes also previous work, previous pull requests, Jira ticket, Crashlytics if it's about fixing a crash. So again, similarly with screenshots, you probably have these tabs open, right, while working on it. You have the most context. So just copy pasting those links are so easy, because if you want to do that 1 day later or like 1 week later, like finding that crash report link uh, again will actually be like so much more work. When you have it already open, just copy paste it, right? It's so easy and makes a big difference. Another quote that I would like to take it from this article is about productivity. So like you will do, it goes like I will do all that I can keep the productivity of myself and the others as high as possible. So again, like it's not just about myself, it's a teamwork, it's about also others. So overall, the productivity of all of us is the most important. So if you are much faster than the others, doesn't mean anything, because the output of the team um, is not only one person's output. For that, keep changes small. It's very important. It's overlooked oftentimes. It's actually not an easy thing to do sometimes. But if you could achieve it, if you keep things small, it's definitely easy to review, and it will also make your life easier because it will be also merged faster, right? Since it is less, it could be reviewed in a shorter amount of time and merged faster. So that also means less context switches for everybody, right? So this is also not only you help other people's productivity by making it easier to review, but also less context switches, like it's a win-win. Less conflicts as well. Unfortunately, these merge and rebase conflicts are really annoying. Like if you have too many of these, it's definitely not a good thing. And like side topic, kind of like single responsibility principle, we try to apply so much in the code, but similarly with the pull request is also important. Like, what does it mean? Like, don't change and make like 5 different things, even 2, 3 different things in one pull request. So a pull request should have a purpose and do basically one single change. Yes, but this is not super easy actually. Why? Because you have to plan for it. If you just like you take a task, you just do it, you spend days and days maybe. That's how it gets bigger. At the end, you do refactor, you solve something. Also, going back to this Boy Scouting rule, you solve something, you change it, like you keep changing it, right? It's very easy to end up in this rabbit hole where you change too much. And if this happens, it's also very difficult to go back and split the pull request. So by maybe sharing knowledge, maybe a bit also pair programming or like planning together, or planning early, you have to think about it from the beginning. So how I can better split this big task into smaller chunks and iterative chunks of work and pull request. Um, this is additional work, but it's very important. You need to do this because not only it will at the end actually make you faster, but overall the team faster and more productive. And last thing that I want to mention about code author is how to deal with comments, right? Like so far it was about more opening the pull request, but now imagine you open it, you got a review, you have a lot of comments. How do you deal with that, right? This is the last step. You need to acknowledge that mistakes are okay. Even going back to the retrospective um, guideline, it's two-way, right? If you have that trusting relationship within the team, uh, even though you are the one who is doing the mistake, you need to know that that should be okay, right? Like again, going back to the trusting relationship, like I advise that the comments should not be personal. Of course, if it is like obviously personal, that's a bigger problem. But also like if it is not, so don't take it personally, right? So this is kind of like the trusting relationship between two parties. Um, Always answer. Sometimes it's very important, very annoying that the other person took the time to review your pull request, but if you don't answer, um, then it could be even like disrespectful to their time. But yeah, it could also be unproductive. So maybe you agreed and you already change it, right? Even in that case, answer. So like say, for example, just a thumbs up, or okay, like I'm gonna do this, or maybe like there's this neat feature of resolving comments. That's good. Sometimes I also copy paste the, if I already addressed and pushed the commit, I put a reference to the commit hash, like or a link as a comment. So like saying that okay, this is answered, addressed in this commit type of. Even if it is like a simple acknowledgement, just a thumbs up is even good. So always answer. If the discussion is getting long as my presentation, I will try to finalize soon. If the discussion is getting long, I'll definitely take it offline. But as a code author, it's also your responsibility to propose to the other person to take it offline, right? You can simply say, hey, like, would you be open to collaborate to understand what you mean better and do this together, right? uh, Again, for you in 1 month, or for other colleagues, it's also like a really good practice to, if you take it offline, good practice to put back the summary. Okay, like you could say, we had a conversation, talk about this, and this was our agreement, right? This could be just a quick summary there that is not only useful for others but also for you and your colleague. Um, and I mentioned as a good practice for the reviewer also not to put too many comments, right? But it can happen. So also as an author, like if you are overwhelmed, especially like as a junior engineer, maybe if you're overwhelmed with too many comments, if you are in that situation, like don't hesitate to ask the reviewer to see if some of them are optional, some of them can be follow up, right? So like I think the distinction of this is very important, but if the reviewer did not make it so clear, don't uh, feel so bad asking about this. Like it's okay to ask um, this. Basically, this is all from my side. Thank you for attending. This was great to present. I have been following Android worldwide. This is like overall has been like a great organization. So I am Shalom. I'm not sure if we have time, but if we have time, I would um, get some questions.
Yeah, yeah. Well, firstly, thank you so much. That was wonderful.
Mhm.
I feel like talks like these are like almost like a necessity for engineers, not as like you hear it once, you're sold for your whole career, but it is the kind of thing that like we should be hearing at like a certain cadence. So that way we
Yeah.
kind of keep remembering, oh yeah, like you remember how I used to do this thing to be better to people at my reviews?
Mhm.
uh I kind of got lazy on that and I'm kind of an asshole now. And you know, like fix that up a little bit. I so thank
Yeah, yeah,
you.
yeah.
So uh if you look on the right side, there's a Q&A section.
Oh, okay. I
We've
was
been
looking at the
posting
chat.
questions.
Okay.
We can give everybody maybe another like minute, write questions, questions that
Mhm.
you find interesting, please. um
Um, yeah, I mean there are already votes. Let me start. Yeah. So I mean, this presentation I prepared from also my own experience working as an engineer, right? But now, like for a couple of years, I have been working as an engineering manager. So this is a really good question. Uh, at Delivery Hero, like all of the managers are technical, so that's a big distinction. In some companies, the role is not so technical. So although it depends on the manager, because as managers we are also busy, I personally participate, but I also hold myself not to participate too much, because, like, a manager's perspective could be understood a bit differently, and also could also be micromanagement sometimes. So I try really hard to find that good balance. But I try to look at it. I try to be active, like see what's going on, also people's interactions. It's really valuable to have like be close to the team. Um, and yeah, I mean, in our team especially, we are good because I also did this presentation, and then we have um, um, such a culture at the moment. Um, yeah. Let me go to the second question. Okay, how do you deal if your PR is not being reviewed for such a long period of time, 24 hours? Does it make sense to add SLA on the code? code review process. So I personally really don't like strict rules. Strict rules are liability that also makes you move slower. So where did the question go? Okay, it's here. So like SLAs and stuff, they're a bit too like bureaucratic. I don't like that. A healthy team should help each other and do this. Um, I don't really understand. Like 20 or 4 hours is good, but sometimes you see like 1 week passes with no review. Um, it is quite surprising because this should be discussed in the stand up. Like especially in stand up, like daily meetings with the team. If the update is the same thing over and over again and day after day, like in this case, for example, please review my pull request, and the next day is please review my pull request. This is really not nice. Something's not working here. So uh, it's not easy to solve, but as yourself in this situation, what I would recommend is to also invite the other people for collaboration. Okay, what do you do? Like send an invite into their calendar just to review it together, right? Uh, just or ask more specific questions. Hey, like I really need this. Can you review it until lunchtime? Even not today, right? It doesn't have to be too long. Of course, like in this case, also you shouldn't open a huge pull request, and then you make other people life harder. But if you did your job, so these could be good ways to handle. Good questions. Let me look at the next one. If a feature story is to be developed, how would you keep the changes small? Do you target all subtask PR in a feature branch or avoid feature branch and target subtask PRs directly to develop? So first of all, feature branches, I hate it because they become sorts of conflicts, and long living branches come with a lot of problems. Uh, like just the overhead of keeping it up to date, but also potential conflicts is really not worth it. It makes you small. This talk is like all about being more effective. So feature branches are definitely like contradictory to that. So what I would do is like if it is not finished work, like either feature flags or some sort of guards, like merge it in a way that you have confidence that it will not create any issues in production. So you just go for it. You merge it as soon as possible behind a feature flag or something like this. Um, and then you continue to develop until it's completely ready, right? But how do you keep it small? So better planning, better splitting the story into smaller chunk of tasks or subtasks. So for every subtask, you would maybe have a separate pull request and merge them one by one very fast instead of like one big request or a feature branch at the end. So for this, of course, like you need to have better testing structure, better confidence. You know what happens. Of course, feature branch in that regard, although comes with an overhead, maybe it's a bit safer because you don't merge it until it's verified that everything works correctly. So to be able to do this, do my suggestion, you need like a better confidence with your code, good testing and quality practices. So you have the confidence when you merge this in progress work, it will not create any bugs or issues. Um, the next one, are there ways to automate enforcement of any of these recommendations? Of course, couple of things like even typos and styling comments, etc. Code style issues, they should be automated. There are good tools and good talks even about specifically about automation on code reviews. Um, uh, I would recommend looking into those. Today, my talk is, of course, about code reviews, but more about giving feedback to each other and kind of like a team culture, having like a good culture in the team to openly. It was more about like a personal side of things, right? That you cannot automate. If you automate, that would be robotic, like thanking people, like acknowledging, appreciating. So that you cannot automate for sure. Why do we say that at least one nice thing while finishing the review? Yeah, it's again about the culture. I think I thought I explained this. Maybe not good enough in the slide. Basically, that Twitter captures it quite well. Um, Let me, yeah, this one. I think, as I mentioned, like it's code reviews are like at the end we want to do better. Oh my God, it's too much back. Uh, okay, this. Uh, well, we need to do better, right? We need to suggestions. We need to think about like better way of doing things, etc. But then, if it is only about that, if it is only about criticism and doing things better, it could be not so personal. I mean, also, like as I mentioned, when it comes to rules, you don't have to be really perfectionist. So take it this as a suggestion. I try to do this as much as possible myself, but you don't have to do it 100% of the times. But definitely you can if you want to. And if you do, that is like really nice for your colleague because um, they will be in a situation where they see that you appreciate them, and then they would be more willing to work together at the end to make other part of the things better, perhaps. If it is only about criticism, then it sounds like sometimes maybe, yeah, it was so bad, but overall, actually, maybe it was a good work. Probably is most of the time. How do you recommend PRs to be by the way, Shalom, do we have time? I'm reading more. We have good questions. Yeah. Do we have time to finish all?
Oh yeah, there's like you were scheduled for um enough time. I think we
Yeah.
still have,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
You have 15 more minutes in your
Cool.
scheduled time, so and then we have a long break. So feel free to keep
Cool.
going.
Cool. How do you recommend PRs to be created if they have majorly UI layout changes? Hmm. Okay. So first of all, even if it is UI layout changes, maybe like let's imagine it's the whole screen. Think about also splitting that. Um, uh, you can also make that one by one, yeah, partly. So that will make it easier to review. At least with Jetpack Compose, also they become like easier to code review. But with XMLs and stuff, it was actually a little bit hard to review. And then what is important then is to provide screenshots and screen recordings. If it is purely about UI changes, this becomes crucial, and you make it more clear than what is this change about. Okay, because of the votes, the order has changed a bit. Why would you suggest for best branching strategy? So in our project, we have many teams. We are like a big project, so we do Git flow, but I don't like it personally that much. It comes with an overhead. Uh, I prefer like much more simpler versions. Basically, you have like a development branch, like let's say main branch, and then you branch off from that and then merge it as soon as possible. So kind of as close to as close as possible to almost like a trunk trunk-based development. If you have like a strong pair programming culture, you could even do trunk-based development. But if you like to, most of us do code review process, and this is about how to make it more effective. Um, you know, like if you merge pull requests like really fast, um, then it becomes as close as to like a bit more asynchronous version of a trunk-based development actually. Um, but if you have like a more complex branching strategy, then maybe it's better for like bigger teams, but definitely it makes you slower. So I personally don't like um, it that much sometimes. Squash commits for pull request or not. We do squash. I think again for bigger teams, especially like incident management or hot fixes, reverting things, etc. Like if you have a dedicated release engineering and release management, like a detailed process in a bigger project, squashing becomes important, especially if you want to like simply revert things. It becomes easier, but actually not greatly. I personally don't care so much how beautiful my Git tree looks like. Uh, yeah, like I was fine with just merging with the merge commits also. So I don't mind that much either. How do you recommend PRs to be created if they have? Oh, I answered this one. Okay, then we have the last one. Give out an insightful idea after finishing your review and help the developers improve. Yeah, I think this might be an answer to the other. Okay, yeah, this is a good suggestion. Yeah, like just maybe appreciation and thanking. This was one part, or it could be like an insightful idea also when you finish. Like think about the summary, what like if you have an I think this is not always easy to do, but if you have that opportunity, give an insightful idea. And these type of stuff again is could be difficult in like a short text in a written form. Again, I would encourage for in-person collaboration in such cases actually. I hope this answers, or I don't know if this is was a real question, bright idea, but yeah, let me know. Cool. Yeah, I like the questions. I'm glad that we had time to answer them. Like also great questions. I gave this talk actually more than one time, and these were great questions. Thanks to the audience. Awesome.
Awesome. All right. So, thank you so much for presenting and answering all the questions thoroughly.